Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live session of GTM and the Tofu Bowl. And today I have Devin Reed. I'm extremely excited to chat with you. I feel like you and I have crossed paths in so many different ways, so it's fun to get to
Yeah,
jam live.
I'm excited. And I've been working with James over at Testbox, and I believe you're an advisor as well. So I've seen your podcast with him many times as I help them with their content. So I've seen a lot of clips and smart things you've said. So I feel pretty warmed up for this. I feel good.
Well, that team is amazing. Also, I have to tell you, you have my actual favorite name. My son is named Devin. I like it so much. So there you go.
Fantastic. I love that. INON?
IN, just like you.
It's the best way. It's the best way.
I kind of just wanted to ask you a question on, you started in sales, you moved into marketing on the content side, and then you decided to kind of go in on your own thing, founded the Reader. What was your moment of like, F it, I'm doing this? Like, did you have like a specific moment or like something change?
You know what I do, but I don't know if the person in this story wants to be, it was a little bit of a private conversation. So I'll share a little higher level version. It was actually a lot of signals first. So a lot of the signals, it was like, first of all, it wasn't like a F in-house. I could do better by myself. It was really more of I've been in-house twice as a head of content. I've ran marketing, a couple marketing teams. And I just saw this really big shift happening. And one of them was that headcount was going down. I was not I was not getting any headcount. If anything, I was losing it. And but I still had budget to go hire other people not at the company to do things like agencies
Yeah.
and partners and all, like I had program money. And so I was like, marketing teams are struggling because they don't really have a content strategy. So they're just struggling. Like, I believe that's the center of a lot of struggle. They don't have the headcount to hire someone to do it, and they don't have any training to learn how to do this. So what if I struck it out on myself and just help fill those boxes by being like this consultant guy, and I'll just pop in for a couple months, help you accelerate growth, set up shop, and then I can bounce. You can fire me. I tell them all the time, fire me when you don't need me. So that was the aha of kind of like enough of those like signals. Like I'm seeing marketing shift in B2B SaaS. And I thought maybe I could go figure out how to do it on my own. That was it.
I had this exact same conversation last week. So we're hiring for a head of demand gen. It's our very first marketing hire right now.
Okay.
And there's a lot of folks on the market, which is awesome, to your point of people being leaner than ever. And I had this conversation with a woman who's quite senior. And for the last year, she's been doing her own consulting and fractional work.
Yeah.
And I kind of asked her, or why, what's the story? And she said, the way she described it was so perfect. She's like, when I was in-house, I kept getting told by my CEO, like, do more, or I know better than you, or blah, blah, blah. I just kind of kept getting yelled at and then getting resources removed from me. And when I went fractional or when I went as a consultant, people were paying me more money and they were listening to me. They were asking me for my advice and guidance. It was a
Yeah.
complete shift. And it's a very interesting psychological study, essentially, because
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's a full time employee, you want to tell them what to do and you want them to do better. But if it's an external consultant, you're expecting them to be the expert. Kind of interesting.
To make it even harder for the in-house people, I was talking to Brendan Hufford about this. I'm not sure if you know Brendan, but marketing is the only job that you have to continually justify your existence, which is really weird because like you had a need, there's a need opening, need for marketing. So we opened a role and we interviewed a bunch of people and then we made someone a great offer. We onboarded them. And then every 4 to 6 weeks, we make them tell us why they know what they're doing and why we should listen to them.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. From my new standpoint of a consultant advisor, yeah, it's great. I actually love that part. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old who don't listen to me at all. Like they're very stubborn. So to jump on some Zoom calls and be like, here's how I would do it, and people listen, that's awesome. Like that's really great. And I've even had a lot of CMOs say that like it's an intangible, but there's just some value of having an outsider's perspective either validate the things they thought they were going to do or confirm they should swerve some other, some ideas or landmines. So it's been really fun to have a bigger impact, or at least maybe a wider impact, maybe not as deep, obviously, as when you're in-house.
Yeah, it's true. But then I think on the flip side, you come in and let's say you actually guide them in a new direction, which is going to be more impactful. They still have to have somebody who's going to go and do the execution typically. And I
Right.
think that's also to your point of people wanting to do more with less or even having to justify their existence. Now it's kind of like, well, we'll just bring in some AI tools and it'll do it. And I think that that is not exactly where we are yet. We still need the humans as not only the creatives and strategists, but also the orchestrators of actually, even if you are adopting tools, which people should, we still need those humans, boots on the ground, understanding how to actually deploy them in an effective way.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And that's like one of my kind of qualifiers is like, hey, this looks great. Let's work together. I'm like, cool. Who's my point of contact to do like manage this work or to make sure, there's a connection between me and the marketing team, because there has to be someone to do the work, but man, and like orchestrate like that, which is really important. So yeah, that's kind of also dovetails into like advice I give a lot of marketers. I'm like, I know you don't really want to hear it, but like you have to learn some of these tools. Like you have to learn what's new and you have to keep up. You don't need to be an expert in all of it, but you should try to be an expert in one, like be really good at one workflow or one thing that fits within your niche and your wheelhouse, right? To help you keep you relevant, keep you valuable in the job market.
Yeah, and to your point, if your boss is going to have extremely higher expectations, you need to figure out how to make yourself a force multiplier. And I think the best way to do that is to take the things that you're uniquely skilled at and then fill in all the gaps with tools to really help you increase not only throughput and output, but also improve the quality. I think that that's one thing where people, I love your thoughts on this. What I saw in the market was there was this early wave of AI tools and people got burned because they expected it to just write everything for them and it was crap. And so then they either got crap back or they published crap. And they're like, AI sucks, it's not good at writing. But the reality is that's just not how it was meant to be used at that time, or it wasn't good enough yet to actually do the entire writing. How are you seeing people, like, what is the sentiment now of the folks you're talking to, especially on the content side?
Marketers are very skeptical of AI because there's been a lot of AI promises of like, look at all this cool stuff you can do. And it is flashy. It's really like, wow, holy hell, I didn't know I could do that. But I don't need that actually. Like, that's not even part of our marketing strategy. It's not part of anything I'm doing. It's just like really cool stuff. Like I almost bid on one the other day. It was like, we can turn your Slack messages into decks. I was like, wow, that's freaking cool. I like went to go like try for free. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't need
Why?
decks right now. I don't need them from Slack. Stop what you're doing, Devin. Like resist temptation. So it's like kind of a little of a jovial example, but there's all this over promising. So I think people, marketers got skeptical. Marketers are also, AI has done this thing where there's this line in the sand now between like purists and I don't know, maybe like business minded. I don't know how to call that yet, but there's almost like I wouldn't use AI. Like I write the best stories, or I can do it. AI will never be able to replace me, and they like resist to their own detriment, in my opinion. And then there's kind of the other group, which I think is like, look, content is a way to grow the business, a way to grow my career, and if AI can help me, I'm going to learn how to do that. But I have no real idea how that's like. I don't know how to. I'm just open to it. So that's kind of the camps I've seen pop up, and then the tools I think that are getting adopted and talked about are the ones that solve one specific thing and they do it really, really well.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, I've been trying to do more video, but I suck at editing. This tool helps. Or you know what? I'm an okay writer, and now I use this writing tool to help me be a pretty good writer. Like that's enough. That's a win, right? It doesn't have to be I created my content strategy in 2 seconds with this new AI tool. People wouldn't believe it, even if it was true.
I think the challenge with that though is kind of the thing we saw over the last excuse me, the last decade where especially on the go-to-market side, people bought 27 tools and each tool did one tiny thing. And then you had a different UI, a different person, a different login, a different everything for the next piece of anything. And I think the entire concept of go to market is it's a team that touches customers and prospects. It's your marketing team, your sales team, your customer success team. And now if every person is using a combination of 6 of their own tools, it just to me feels like a complete disaster when it comes to actually making that cohesive or unified narrative. I think people are doing what's best for them, not what's best for the customer.
For sure. I mean, that's psychologically speaking, self-interest is what drives everyone. But it's like, I think I agree with it. I don't know the platforms if there are many. Like I know like Writers, like the enterprise AI platform, but I don't know. It feels like the silo kind of continues with the AI workflows. I don't disagree with you. I just don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what the other option is. Like I'm still shocked, AI or not, that there is not a at least very well known. I don't know all the there's 5,000 Martech. I don't know them all, but there's not a tool that goes from like ideation to production to publication to measurement from a content marketing standpoint. Like, I have not seen that full flow in tech, let alone like with AI. And then when some people send me stuff like, hey, what do you think of this? And it kind of promises that, I'm like, there's 9 people at this company. I just don't believe, like, I'm not going to put my reputation at my company on this brand new tool that seems almost too good to be true. That's like my
I think it's totally fair.
challenge.
The funny thing is that's kind of what we're trying to do with Tofu. I think that we've picked like areas as the wedge, and then you kind of, to your point of like, it needs to be comprehensive, and so you kind of move in both directions to continue to eat more of that. But yeah, I think you're spot on. It's like doing it from the very concept of, okay, we think of everything in campaigns. Let's go and ideate on what is this campaign, who needs to be involved, what are the channels, what are the touch points, is it top, middle or bottom of funnel, all that stuff, all the way through measurement. That part, it needs to be owned by a single thing to make it really good. And I think we'll get there eventually.
I know, and I said that knowing who am I talking to, by the way. I just mean like,
nice.
I'm just saying is like, I thought your vision would have been lived out like 5 years ago, but I got to marketing 5 years ago. And so I was just kind of surprised that I came from sales where you join and there's a sales methodology, there's a sales process, everything has a button in sales. Like it's very, you go through and you know what you got to do. Then you get to marketing and it's like, we need to help grow the company and brand awareness. How? And it's like, it's like shooting from the hip. Like we do some of this and this and this, but there isn't like we follow the Tofu methodology for marketing. And here's how we go about this. And here's the step by step. That doesn't exist that I've seen. Maybe I don't know everything. So then I'm like, well, there should be a tech to then reflect that methodology. You know what I mean? And so that's mine.
That's actually a really astute point. I like that a lot. I've not seen anything where it's like, here is the well-adopted framework of how marketing is done, and you go through these steps and you follow these different paths and all that kind of stuff. It definitely makes sense. This actually, I saw you post about this a while ago, and this is something I've just been trying to beat the drum on. It is boggling my mind how not only are marketing and sales measured on completely different things, but they're comped very differently. Like sales. Yeah, and I've been saying this forever. Why is marketing not comp variably? Why are they not? Whatever they can control, whether it's revenue or opportunities, like pipeline opportunities, why are they not comped on that?
So can I give context to the post real quick? Because I wrote it on Thursday. And I kind of knew I was stirring the pot. I'm a shit talker sometimes. And so for folks who haven't seen it, the post was basically like, I never understood this. Why does sales get sales process, something else, sales methodology, sales training, and compensation, aka fat stacks, and marketing gets yelled at? That's weird. Isn't that so odd? There's a sales kickoff. There's no marketing kickoff. There's no marketing methodology. I have only been trained because I was the leader who went and hired someone who's not a trainer to come train our team. So, and then of course the comments went bananas of people from sales and marketing going like, well, you don't have accountability. That's why you're not in sales and get money, and that's my jerk sales voice, I guess. The truth of why I think sales and marketing clash is two things. One, sales is measured on outcomes. Marketing is measured often on outputs.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get. I was in sales. You don't hit quota by being on 90 sales calls. You do it by closing $150,000. Right? That's straight up it. The other part is accountability. In sales, you don't hit that number 1 or 2 quarters. There's a number next to your name. It's understood. You are on your way out. In marketing, you miss that number and nothing usually happens until 4 quarters and the whole team's gone. Like maybe, right? Like that's what happens. So there just isn't that level of accountability. And so I had replied to someone in the comments because I have to monitor my spiciness when I reply to people on the internet. But someone called out the comp and I said, I agree. I personally, and I'm sorry, marketers, if you don't like me for this, I hate that it's 100% base. That is the worst way to motivate someone, to say, just show up and do your best work or not, and you'll get paid the same. Like, I just don't like that. I want clear-cut, measurable goals, not just so I can get paid more, but it's great for morale. Like, Elaine, if I'm your new head of demand gen and you set some numbers, I set numbers, in 90 days we hit the numbers, we feel great. We're celebrating. We're a winning team now. But a lot of marketers don't have documented KPIs, or they're not held accountable to them. So sometimes it's their error. Sometimes it's leadership. And so morale actually deteriorates because you don't even know what the scoreboard, you're not looking at the scoreboard. And if you're not hitting, if you're not winning the game, to the sports analogy, again, forgive me, of course you shouldn't expect a $10,000 check in the mail. Like you didn't quote unquote do anything, or at least it wasn't tangible enough. So that's my 3 minutes on marketing comp, but I would change it to 70-30 if you want to know what I would do.
Yeah, we do. We actually do that for CS, and I plan to do that for all marketing hires as well. And
Love
it's
that.
50-50 sales, 70-30 marketing and
Really?
CS. Yeah, for real.
Great.
And
Love that.
I actually would love to get it to 50-50 at some point. I think the reason we aren't out the gate is that it's a shock to the system for people. It's just not how
Right.
they're used to being comped. And so I think we have to like boil the, well, I won't use that analogy, but boil the water slowly.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, to your point of, I really liked how you framed it as outcomes versus outputs. And to me, whether you are a content marketer or a demand gen person, I think people often think of like demand gen and growth being more tied to pipeline and actual
Yep.
opportunity creation. But the entire goal of the content team should be around the core sales metrics: pipeline generation, deals closed, renewals, upsell, cross sell. Like that is their goal. So it seems silly to me that we can't put some outcomes based metrics around that and then just tie everyone to it accordingly.
Another way you could do it is you have your growth KPIs. We did this at Gong actually, and I loved it. So I was a content marketing leader on the demand gen team until I left and learned how other. That was my first marketing gig. Until I left and learned how other teams operate. I didn't think it was weird, but we were really just a demand gen team that used content marketing as our superpower. Like that's what we did. So we had our own KPIs. Everyone on my team had 2 KPIs for the quarter, and if you hit 100%. You then had a second thing, which was the multiplied by company revenue. So if we hit 95% of the company target, you get 95%. If we got 60%, you get 60%. And that sucks. And it's awesome at the same time. It sucks because you're not losing, but you feel like the team lost. But that's a good thing. You don't want the marketing team to be like, we hit 150% of MQLs. We're partying and popping champagne and going to wine country. And the company hit 50% of the revenue goal. That's not go to market. So I like this, like, hit your own marketing KPIs and then look at that like revenue potentially accelerator. Sometimes we overextended and we made a lot of money as marketers. And so I think that's how it should be. And also there's no such thing as performance marketing. I don't know. Can I cuss on this? Get the out of here. What? Here's why. Line in the sand. You're performance marketing. You're arts and crafts. Like what?
Ads. It's just ads.
Everything is performance marketing and everything is brand marketing. Here's how I know. If all your marketing aligns to a strategic initiative, that's performance based, if it's direct or indirect, tangible, less tangible, attribution, all that stuff. That's just it. Because if you can look at someone or something and go, oh, you know what? That's not performance based. Let's just do that because, cut it. That's not smart. That's not real marketing. Like that's not how it should be done. So yeah, I know creative directors hate me for that talk track, but I go, you're part of the equation too. Better graphics, better brand feel should help drive demand. And it should all be the same. Absolutely. You cannot have exceptions. You can't say sales, you get based on this, and marketing, you get a little less, and creative directors and content folks, you get even less accountability.
Or even if you take it, one step further, like let's say creative team, right? It doesn't matter if you created 47 ads or 2 that performed 3x better than those 47. Create 3. Double down on the 3. You know what I mean? Like that, the volume should not be something that is cheered.
In copywriting, you have the team together. It's the copywriter. I mean, you have the account director too, but you have your copywriter and your designer or creative director or whatever. And they work together to make an ad that beats the control. So if you have some top performing ads, that's your control. And now your goal is to beat that. And if you beat that, that's going to hit a number, and that number is going to help us hit revenue targets. And then you're going to get paid for that. The challenge is a lot of times it's like, creative and B2B SaaS is basically order takers and task rabbits. Unfortunately, they're just incredibly reactive at the will of whoever has the latest Asana ticket, and I don't believe in that, and I've seen it work poorly. And they also feel less part of the team. They just feel like they're just doing, they're at the will of everyone around them and not able to be strategic. So you have found 2 hot topics that I feel very passionate about very early in this conversation. So
I think we're equally aligned on that. I've only been at one even somewhat large company ever, which I'm mostly incompatible with, but I was at Slack when they were around 400 people. And I had never experienced, I'd always done early startups. I never experienced working with a creative team where everything was, even for a simple graphic, like, hey, we're doing a new white paper. I need just a banner graphic. It goes through a creative brief, like a huge brief. And then it sits, to your point, as an Asana ticket for 2 to 4 weeks before it even gets there. And so you're like, cool, we spent all this time. We created this content that we want to ship. It's part of a campaign. Oh, the campaign's going to now wait for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I've been there too. It needs 3 weeks for a PDF. I need a checklist tomorrow. I could do it in Canva now. Why do I have to put it through a whole? Yeah, and I get it. It's a challenge of scale. It's the intention of the Asana ticket and all that stuff is in the right for the right reasons, but it's just not practical for the speed that we need in SaaS. You know, if you're shipping something once a month or shipping something once a week, you're going to learn what is that 4 times faster. So that's what we need to optimize for. So that's me. I'm all about speed, time to ship.
Maybe it's kind of funny as you're talking, I'm like, oh, we were saying before how there's no marketing process. I think stuff like that is the process that was put in place for marketing, which
Yeah.
makes no sense. It was more of a, how do we go and coordinate a lot of people who are like, salespeople tend to be more independent, right? Whereas marketing,
Yeah.
it's like you own a piece and you all have to coordinate. So the process is more coordination as opposed to here's how you win.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very fair. Very fair. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't like that process, that long process. I feel like I'd rather split a team into pods or something and get things moving faster than like this long assembly line. That was when I was at Clary. That was like, I adopted a long assembly line, like 45 steps to get a blog out the door. And it was like, it does not take 5 people and 45 steps. It just doesn't. So let's slim that down. So
Smart. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on more so I'm just curious, this whole B2B influencer and kind of like doing things that I very much have. I'm not a social media person, but very much what I saw happen a decade ago on Instagram is now kind of taking shape in the earliest forums on LinkedIn. And I feel like you're kind of at the epicenter of it. I see like you and Heike and some folks like actually collabing now and doing stuff like that and just having fun. And so what's happening? Tell me more about this whole underground world. It seems interesting.
Influencer marketing is absolutely booming. And I say that from, again, having been on both sides. So when I was still in house at Clary, another aha moment was I cut I can't say how much, but a check that would buy you a nice car for an influencer. And I wasn't even it came to me, like someone above was like, we want to work with this person. And I'm like, we don't have the money. And they're like, here's the money. And I'm like, wow, I have worked my ass off to get a lot less money and you're just giving it to me. And what I realized was SaaS companies are realizing they have no audience and they have very little brand awareness. So when they have a new feature, product, whatever, they don't have anyone to launch it into. There's no one ready to receive that information and buy from them. Influencers, they're seeing as a way to accelerate their awareness and their trust in the market and obviously give them some more opportunity to convert. So it's this big acceleration opportunity. Of course, it comes with a lot of risk. You're in the people business now. What's Devin going to say? Is he going to see something on CNN and go unhinged in the middle of our campaign? We don't know. That's the risk you have to take. Not with me personally. I stay on CNN, but you get the idea. So what's really cool is watching this take off. It's become quickly the second largest business unit at the Reader, just because I have spent the last 5 years writing on LinkedIn, doing, speaking like this and just building up my reputation. And so a lot of companies are coming in saying, hey, what's the makeup of your audience? Hey, here's our point of view. Do you agree with this? Hey, here's our product. Have you ever used it or would you be interested? And when you can start to kind of make those connections beyond just so-and-so has 400,000 followers, let's give them money to say stuff. You're starting to see some really cool partnerships happen. And so that was, I don't know, did you see, Elaine, the Notion one? I thought Notion did a pretty good job a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I've started to see some of it. I think I missed the original thing, but with like the profile pictures and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it took a super creative approach, got like 20, 30 creators. Snoop Dogg they got Snoop Dogg in there to make a profile picture. So it's just ways that you can start to either, if it's heavy brand awareness, right? And just getting our name out there, pure, telling our brand story, or saying, hey, here's this new product we launched. Let's get 10 people to talk about it authentically, right? Devin, here, no script, just here's the tool. What do you think? How does this help you? And it's been cool because you can, as long as the brief isn't too strict and they give you some creative freedom, you can have a lot of fun helping your audience. Hey, here's this new tool. Here's this cool thing. Here's this event I'm doing. And here's some content around that. And here's why you should go attend. So I like seeing it. This is the year. This will be the breakout year. Next year will be optimized. Then it'll get to scale. And then probably in 3 years, it'll fade. And just as all things do.
I wrote for the entire pandemic for call it almost 4 years up until really going full in on Tofu. I wrote a weekly newsletter called 3 Things. And it was when I was on the venture capital side. And it was 3 business ideas that I thought should exist. And I went through the why now, how I build it, and how I monetize it.
That's
And
cool.
this is back in 2021. I wrote about, I always like to use analogies. So I said grid for B2B. And the idea was somebody needs to build a platform to manage B2B influencers because
Yeah.
it was very clear that when you start seeing some of the traditional tried and true channels just start to tank, you need to find new approaches and new channels.
Yeah.
And this essentially becomes a new channel. And I think when you look at events as a major pillar of most B2B marketing teams and sales teams, you have two options. You have your owned and you have your rented audiences. And you kind of have to do both. And I think same thing now when it comes to your point of like getting out news or just awareness or things like that, you have to have your own audience and then rented. And I think this
Yeah.
becomes a way when it's done authentically to leverage that rented audience in a really nice way.
100%. 100%. I love it. I agree fully. Um, I think it comes down to execution. Like it obviously works. Like we've seen it in B2C. Like we've seen that we trust people more than brands. That's only accelerating. So yeah, and I wish I had seen that newsletter. I would have read that. That sounds very interesting. Yeah.
It's
And now there
called
are
Three
multiple
Things.
platforms that do that, by the way. You called it 3 years early. There's a couple of them out there.
I feel like most of the things I called, it was inevitable. It was not one of those things where I was like 10 years futurist. It was like, it's going to happen and kind of here's how to do it. But I just think it's cool. I also just, it's really fun to watch people be themselves and be quirky. And that's what I appreciate about like your stuff. I think Heike is hilarious. Like
She's the
like people like
best. She's the
her.
best.
Or I'm just like, I'm not funny like that. I wish I was, but I just love watching people be themselves. And I think your stuff too, it just feels so authentic. It feels like
Thank
you're
you.
just kind of like living your best life and other people get to be along for the ride.
I really appreciate that. That's what I try to do that honestly, because there is pressure. If you look at follower count, or I saw Heike and I loved it immediately. I'd only met her once in passing. Did not see the humor she now displays openly. And I saw one of her videos and I told her, I was like, I loved you and hated you all at once because I loved the content and hated that you're so much funnier than me on your first video. And I've been doing this for 4 years. Like it took me a while to get here. So I had her on the show. I have my own show, Read Between the Lines, and we recorded the episode and then we blocked 2 hours just to do fun content, like what fun videos. Like one is like like you're trying to get your marketing budget approved, but your toddler's a CEO. Or your CEO is a toddler, excuse me. So like I was the CEO, but I was like, I want crackers and Paw Patrol and all this like ridiculous things. Another one is like you're trying to get a case study from the field, and I'm like, yeah, I need a case study where the CFO says AI and transformation, and it has to be from England and manufacturing and all this stuff. And she's the marketer, like, how the hell am I going to do this? So it's just like having fun with that and just like bringing positivity to the feed. And people love it. And LinkedIn has been serious for too long. So it's time to make it more fun.
That's exactly right. It's like business content has been boring and not fun. And I think now finally people feel like they have permission to be fun and authentic. And you see, I think Gong was really good at this, by the way. I think you guys did a really good job of actually creating fun, unique content. And now you start to see Notion and other companies just Clay is a good example, just being fun and creative. And I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, what if we did something different, used humor because we are all human beings, got some attention, earned some mind share, and see what happens. And then people like us are talking about Clay and they're talking about Heike. So it's like, I think it just like almost like crossing the chasm. It had to like go from like our like normal lives, and like just that approach had to kind of like cross the chasm. It's like, hey, we can do this in B2B and we can have fun and make money. Like it's okay. You don't have to be so buttoned up all the time. So I'm very excited to see that trend pick up and hopefully continue. Definitely in our go-to-market space, like sales and marketing are definitely more open to this type of stuff. But I've seen it in other places too. Some fun videos and things, and it works. It does.
Well, thanks so much for your time. I know I took you over a little bit, but also
okay.
I feel like I think one of the things I love about watching some of your stuff now too is I also have two small children. Mine are 1 and 3. And it's like, whenever you go down that rabbit hole, I'm like, yes, like I get it. So it's also fun to have fun with that a little bit on LinkedIn as well.
100%. And congrats to 1 and 3. I'm at 2 and 4. I got 2 little girls downstairs. So I'm right there with you in the thick of it.
Exactly. I know. I feel like we need a support group for all of us who are in that same stage of life.
I do. I'll sign up for the support group. I'll provide as much as I can, and I will definitely accept support.
Deal. Well, Devin, thanks so much. Really fun. Excited to continue doing this over time. This is, I think you have great takes and love watching your stuff.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we got to hang out live. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Devin. See y'all next time.